everyone, this is Heather Lautinen from the Flourish.Academy. Excuse me. This is episode 479. Today we're talking about cropping. Now I do have a cropping video on the Flourish.Academy website. It's Flourish.Academy/blog. If you search for cropping in Lightroom, you'll find a video where I screencast some really important things you need to know about cropping. But the reason that I'm talking about it today is because we've been discussing this a lot this past week in the Flourish Academy membership group. So specifically, the first question was, do you deliver low res, medium res, and high resolution files to your clients? So low res would be 72 DPI at a smaller image size for web, and high res would obviously be at 300 DPI for print. And I do deliver low res and high res to my clients so they can use them on Facebook and they can use them for print. Medium resolution never made sense to me. So some photographers would have a package that said, you know, you could purchase files up to an 8x10 print, and they would constrain the images so that they would print very well at 8x10, and then they would look terrible if they were printed larger than that. Personally, I never understood the point of doing that, because you're giving your client a medium resolution file and you're saying you purchased a file that you can print up to 8x10. How many clients are following that? Or are they just buying that because it's less expensive and then they're trying to print anything larger than 8x10, even like a 16x24 with those medium resolution files, and then they're getting crappy prints and it just reflects poorly on you. I am not a fan of that middle of the road. It's either low res for web or it's high res for print, and there's nothing in the middle. I wouldn't mess with anything in the middle. I think you are wasting your time. Okay, that was one thing. The other was, what about cropping to specific ratios, or taking into account the fact that what comes out of our camera is a 2:3 ratio, which is not 8:10. These are different ratios, so cropping happens. I actually, in front of me, have this. I can post this below so that you can see it. So look at poor Rocky. He loses his head as we crop this image, and you can see what it comes like out of the camera is the original. I always deliver the original file high resolution to my clients. I would never crop this specifically to a ratio, because again, what if they order a different ratio, especially because I include the files in my packages. Okay, so jumping over to Lightroom, if you are going to crop your image in terms of you want to improve the composition, that's fine. However, and I have this in screencast, I would recommend making sure that your crop tool is locked. So can you see right there, the lock is unlocked, but it says original. You actually want that lock to be locked, and you want it to say original. So that keeps it to the original ratio and it locks the proportions. If you don't have it set to that, then what you are doing is you're changing the ratio of the image, and that's only going to cause more confusion. So then the question becomes, well, what if my client orders a photo at an 8x10? Well, if my clients get their files, and they do, I recommend that they use MPix. When they add that photo to their cart and they select 8x10, MPix gives them the option to move that crop or to adjust it, because it's a different ratio. So they're able to do that. I always say cropping like that should be done at the lab level, meaning it's the original ratio, you upload it to the lab, and then you let the lab set the boundaries and you move it how you would like to crop it. I just think you're making more work for yourself if you try to cover every possible scenario, because you're going to miss something. So it's high resolution for print, period. You should have that locked ratio in Lightroom. Again, check out that, I'll go find it, I'll post the link below. Check out that screencast, because it's really important to keep that. Another thing worth noting, I talk about this in the screencast, is you don't want to crop more than 10 to 15% of your frame, and that's just an average, because it does depend on your camera, how big your sensor is, how many pixels you have, and how large you are printing. But all of those things considered, you just don't want to lose data from your image. So the less you crop, the better. Now, in terms of, okay, well, what if somebody wants to order, an 8x10 and it's cutting off important parts of the photo? Well, you could counsel them and say, why don't you order an 8x12 and get it mounted? Or you could look for a custom frame. I mean, there are certainly ways around that. But I just don't recommend adjusting your crop for all these specific situations. When I am taking my photos, I am not always thinking about the crop. I'm thinking about the photo. Take a nice photo, and I am composing it the way I want the image to be. The only exception to that is when I am doing family formals or very important shots at a wedding, I always leave space, and I leave a lot of space. In fact, one time a mother of a bride said to me, why is there so much empty space on the sides of those photos? And I said, when you order an 8x10, it will make sense because you're losing 2 inches. So, and I showed her and she was fine, but I leave that space. I leave that space on the formals, on the sides. These are horizontal images, landscape for me, so I leave space on the sides. Of course, if they're vertical, I do the same. But I'm only doing that on images where I am aware that they are going to order large prints of these. If I have an image like this one of Rocky and Lindsay, I shot it the way I wanted to shoot it. So that full image, original image, that's what I saw in my mind, that's what I wanted. If they decided to order that as an 8x10, they could shift that crop and it could cut off maybe her bouquet instead of Rocky's head. That might make more sense. But I might advise, hey, why don't you order a different size? Now, in this case of the photo of my daughter, Ella, you see I have tons of headspace there. So if I press O on my keyboard to show the crop overlays, you can see where it says 4:5 ratio, that's 8:10. I have plenty of space. And she won't lose any part of her head or any part that's important. So it's something to keep in mind, but it's not something you need to obsess over. So I'm gonna post a link for that cropping video. I just wanted to talk about delivering low, medium, high resolution, what that looks like. I hope that you found this useful. I'll see you in the next video.